As the new VaxiCode app went live overnight on the Apple App Store, we were able to get an early look at how it works. The first hurdle, downloading the QR code that the province generates off its website. Some listeners are pointing to a potential formatting issue. The website generates a PDF, but the app asks users to scan the code or upload a photograph. Brossard resident Chris Normando points out that for some elderly people, this may make using the app difficult.
It'll depend on the situation of the person, how old they are and how used they are to doing things. If you have a printout, it's fine. But if you don't have a printout already, there's a little extra step that has to go through.
The vaccine passport program is slated to start in less than a week. Billy Shields, CTV News.
Across the country, Delta variant-fueled infections are rising, and that has a handful of provinces reintroducing mandatory face coverings and vaccine requirements.
Quebec elementary and high school students across 9 regions, including Montreal, will have to wear masks indoors when classes resume. Manitoba, meantime, is bringing back a mask mandate for all indoor public spaces, including schools, while all frontline provincial employees who will work with vulnerable populations will need to be fully vaccinated against COVID-19 by the end of October. And starting today, BC is bringing back masks in all indoor public spaces such as malls, grocery stores, and on transit. Rob Westgate, The Canadian Press.
And Pete Townsend of The Who is paying tribute to the late Charlie Watts. Last night, Townsend joined other rock legends in paying their respects to the Rolling Stones drummer, who died yesterday in a London hospital at the age of 80. Townsend posted an image of a rainbow and praised Watts as more of a jazz drummer than a rock drummer who made the Stones swing. The guitarist also called him a lovely man. Follow us on Instagram and Twitter at CJD800. Your Dormez-vous Weather Center forecast. The heat warning remains in effect through tomorrow night. Mainly sunny today, a high of 31, humidex of 40. Tonight, mainly cloudy with a 40% chance of showers and low of 23. Tomorrow, a mix of sun and cloud, a 40% chance of showers, high of 33, and humidex of 39. In Montreal right now, it's 25 degrees. For all the news during the day, stream us on your smart speaker. Just say play CJD 800. Your next CTV News update is at 10:30.
If it's news to you, it's important to him. From now till noon, stay connected. Here's Elias Makos, CJAD 800.
Welcome back, David Hertel in for Elias. Well, we heard your say on the Liberals. A lot of Liberals staying with Justin Trudeau. Some of you may be thinking of switching. We'll now continue the conversation with a Liberal candidate in Laurier, Sainte-Marie. He is also the Minister for Canadian Heritage. Stephen Guilbeault joins us this morning. Stephen, thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure, David. Happy to be here.
So, Stephen, you've seen the polling. You've seen that the Liberals right now, we're almost a third of the way through in this campaign. The Liberals don't seem to be heading towards a majority government. What's your take on the Liberals' campaign so far?
Well, I should preface what I'm about to say, David, by saying that I have about 18 months of experience in active politics. So I certainly wouldn't define myself as an expert on these issues. What I will say is that, we've been knocking on doors, we've been talking to people, and there are still a lot of people who are in vacation, many people in a riding, and I was on the south shore of Montreal yesterday, and it's very similar. Don't even know that there's an election. And I think things are really going to start picking up after the first, second, and third debate. So I think next week we will see more people paying attention. So right now, I'm not sure I would put a lot of faith into what polls are saying, because it's likely going to change in the coming weeks.
Let's listen to what our CJAD 800 political insider Tom Mulcair had to say this morning about the status of the campaign.
Every province is rolling out all of these announcements about vaccine passports and new rules in schools, and you don't know whether the kids need their masks in the corridors or just in the classroom. And parents are exhausted. Families just need a break. And Canadians are still looking at Mr. Trudeau saying, why did you start this election right now? And the answer that they provide to the pollsters is, you're doing it for yourself. This is a power grab for you. You want something for you. You want something for the Liberals. This is not about us. And I've never seen anything so marginal stick so much, because Canadians are not being very forgiving about this. Are they going to change their votes? I'm not sure about that, but they're certainly peeved about the election right now.
Stephen Guilbeault, what do you think? Did we need an election campaign right now?
Well, I have tremendous respect for Mr. Mulcair, whom I've known for many years. What I can tell you is that my volunteers and I have been speaking in the last roughly almost 2 weeks to hundreds of people in the riding, and this issue of people being mad at us for launching an election has barely come up. Like,
really?
On my radar screen, the people I've made a number of these calls. Not something people talk to me about the door. They're talking to me about climate change and the fact that we need to do more. They're talking to me about social housing and providing more affordable housing. Many of them are talking to me about reconciliation with First Nations. I mean, obviously, what we've seen in Canada over the last few months have certainly made a lot more people aware of the situation of Indigenous people in Canada. But this issue of election, why now? I'm not saying it's not there. I'm just saying that the people that there's about 30 volunteers working on my campaign right now, and myself making hundreds of calls per week. That's just not coming up.
We have to talk about the environment and climate change. Obviously, people know you first and foremost as being one of Quebec's and Canada's top environmentalists. You were a founding member of Équiterre. You still speak, even though it's not your portfolio, you still speak on environmental issues. You're still involved in committees, government committees on climate change. In 2019, when you first ran, when people were asking you about Justin Trudeau making the decision to buy a pipeline out west, you were saying, well, I don't necessarily agree. It's not my decision. It was made before I decided to run. And now today, well, we're still in a situation where the federal government is pushing for another pipeline, the Enbridge pipeline. The Liberals have enacted some legislation on climate, but it doesn't seem will make our targets for 2022, our reduction targets for 2022. I'm reading a lot of texts, getting a lot of calls saying, well, the Liberals are, they talk a good game on climate, but the results aren't there. You were on the other side, and you are an expert on this one. What if you were the director of Équiterre, how would you grade the Liberal government right now on climate change?
Well, I could quote some of my ex-colleagues from Équiterre or Greenpeace, that when Greenpeace, for example, when we presented our climate change plan with Minister Wilkinson and the Prime Minister, called it an ambitious plan, and then they will go into saying we need to do more, and I totally agree with that. I mean, we have an ambitious plan. In fact, emissions, so the climate change pollution has started going down. If not from the measures we've started implementing, our pollution level in 2019 would have been 30 million tons. So 30 million tons probably doesn't mean a lot of things to a lot of people listening, but to you and I, as you know, I mean, it's almost half of Quebec's emission. So it is starting to have an impact. We're putting a price on pollution, something the Conservatives say they will only do if our other major trading partners, the U.S., do, and they know full well that the U.S. administration, while being very active on climate change, will never be able to pass legislation on pricing pollution through the U.S. Congress. So they would basically abandon this and make pollution free. We were the first government in the history of Canada to have permanent transit funding. So more than 300 transit projects in the country being built right now, 1,300 in the pipeline, so to speak, for public transit around the country, and massive investment in electrification. And we've increased our goals for 2030 by almost 50%. In fact, in 2019, the NDP was saying that Canada's goal for 2030 in terms of cutting climate change pollution should be 38% below 2005 levels. Well, our current target are between 40 and 45% below 2005 level. So we're being even more ambitious than what the NDP was calling for.
Speaking with Stephen Guilbeault, who is a candidate for the federal Liberals in Laurier Sainte-Marie and Minister of Canadian Heritage. Stephen, why is the federal government still subsidizing the oil and gas industry?
That's a very good question, David. So the commitment that Canada and our G20 partners have made many years ago is to phase out fossil fuel subsidies by 2025. So people who say we haven't implemented that commitment are either don't understand or are lying. And I know some people know about this, so they're clearly lying. Now, someone could say, well, I think 2025 is too far, and that's a criticism I accept. And I'm of the opinion that we need to phase them out quickly. That 2025 is not that far away, but we, why not 2023, for example, or maybe even sooner. That being said, if you look at the numbers, and it's complicated, but there was a pretty good article in the Devoir a few weeks ago, and if you look at the level of subsidies, they've gone down by $3 billion a year since 2018. So we are on the trajectory to phase them out. That being said, I think there's a fundamental difference between our position and the position of the NDP, where they say that there would be no support for oil and gas companies. We actually provide support for all companies in Canada that want to go greener, that want to ensure that their employees will continue having work by going green. And that's where the world is going. So we've provided during the pandemic money to companies to clean up oil wells, orphan wells, abandoned wells in Alberta. We've provided money so that they would reduce their carbon pollution. The NDP says we wouldn't do that. I disagree with that position. I think that we need to support all sectors of our economy to reduce our climate change pollution.
I have a final question for you, and it's about language. Over the past weeks and months, a lot of people in the Anglophone community here in Montreal and around Quebec have felt that the federal Liberals have abandoned them on Bill 96, on contesting Bill 21. There's a lot. I'm getting these texts, these calls regularly on the fact that the federal Liberals, who traditionally are looked at by the Anglophone community as one of the key defenders of the Anglophone minority here in Quebec, aren't there this time around. What do you have to say to them?
I would ask them to look carefully at what we've been doing. My colleague and friend, Minister Joly, tabled legislation to modernize the Canadian Official Languages Act to ensure that we can continue protecting language minorities, Anglophones in Quebec, Francophones outside Quebec. And I mean, the bills you referred to are obviously bills from the Quebec government. They're not federal government bills. That being said, we are very concerned by what we're seeing as, I don't know if we can call it a tendency, but it certainly looks like it, the Quebec government to use the notwithstanding clause for many of their legislation. And we have to remember that when this was put into the Canadian law, it was viewed to be used only as an exceptional measure, not as something you have to use every time you're tabling a bill. So this is something we're looking at very closely. But in terms of what we're doing, we're investing more money in Quebec to support the Anglophone minority, and outside Quebec to help promote and protect the Francophone minority. So we are the party of the official languages, and this continues to be very dear to our heart. And I would add that one of the pieces of legislation I have tabled to ensure that web giants would pay their fair share in culture would provide more than $800 million so that Canadians can tell their own stories, that we can fund more artists in Canada, more writers, story writers for movies and TV series, for music. Now, obviously, the Conservatives oppose that, but we believe that Canada is a beautiful country and has so many amazing stories to tell, and we want to hear those stories from Francophones outside Quebec, from Anglophones in Quebec, and from just about everybody else around the country.
C'est le plus beau pays du monde. Thank you so much, Stephen Guilbeault, for joining us today.
So thank you very much, David. Have a good day.
Have a good day. That was Stephen Guilbeault. He is the federal Liberal candidate in Laurier, Sainte-Marie here in Montreal, and he is the minister for Canadian Heritage. Let's now check on your drive from the CJAD 800 Traffic Center, brought to you by Metropolitan Rust Roofing. Last chance to take advantage of their $20 summer special off a complete rust proofing treatment. Metropolitan Rust Roofing, a smart investment that really pays. Here again now is Catherine Wood.
Good news on to Carey Boulevard at Edouard Montpetit. The gas leak that we had at the intersection, it's been capped. So the service road has been reopened in the northbound direction. Southbound to Carey slows off the top to Côte St. Catherine. The expressway northbound is heavy, Queen Mary up. 20's looking good both ways. Eastbound 40 has volume around to Carey Circle. Met West after VO, we've picked up an accident. You're stopping go Lacordaire to Carey. 13 South, some volume from before Notre Dame to the B-Cell Bridge, and Laurentian Autoroute southbound thick Henri Bourassa to the Met. Inbound Champlain, there's left lane road work. You're slowing before the 132, and we have an accident on the 30 East after the 221, causing a backup to Sainte-Marguerite. 50 or over, what are you waiting for? Ask your pharmacist today if helping prevent pneumococcal pneumonia with the Prevnar 13 vaccine is right for you. Learn more at Prevnar.ca. Next report, 10:30.
That Honda CR-V sure has a lot of room. You can fit almost anything in there. And the rear door is open to 85 degrees. That's huge. It's like walking into your old high school gymnasium. Ah, dodgeball.
Lease the 2021 Honda CR-V starting at 0.99% up to 48 months and get a bonus of up to $1,000 upon lease of select models. On approved credit, details at honda.ca.
With an offer like that, head to Honda. Hello?
Sarah's excited to celebrate her birthday at a restaurant. She's thought about it all week. She invited her friends. She got a new dress. She went to the restaurant. She wasn't allowed in the restaurant. She had to put away her new dress. She couldn't see her friends. And she thought about it all week.
Don't wait until it hits you. Get vaccinated. Beginning in September, you'll need a vaccination passport to enter certain public spaces. A message from the Gouvernement du Québec.
Oh, according to research, 82% of people remember radio ads. That means that 82% of you listening right now will remember that this is an ad for ZipRecruiter. If you're hiring, 82% of you will recall that ZipRecruiter makes hiring faster and easier. And 82% of you will note that you can try ZipRecruiter for free today. But you have to go to ZipRecruiter.ca/save. 82% of you will keep in mind that ZipRecruiter's technology finds qualified people for your job and actively invites them to apply.
Is that you? Who are you talking to?
82% of you will also know that I, live with my mom. But the most important thing to note is that ZipRecruiter works. In fact, 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. Will you be part of the 82% who remember where you can try ZipRecruiter for free? It's ZipRecruiter.ca/save. Again, that exclusive link is ZipRecruiter.ca/save. That's ZipRecruiter.ca/save.
Are you the type to check the door 3 times to make sure it's locked? Do you worry about your packages being stolen? Rest easy thanks to TELUS Smart Home. Lock your doors, keep an eye out for